Sound?
Sound and speed?
It's really important that we know this one. Just make sure that the lighting is like perfect.
Can you go up a little bit?
You good?
For me. Good. Both of them good.
Both of them good?
Yeah, thank you.
Vote for Pedro.
Okay.
Vote for Pedro. So I'm talking to Isaac, but I'm looking at this camera. So I have to look over there.
Will we sit right here?
Yeah, it might be helpful.
You want the taller chair?
No, I don't need to sit here.
I got you.
No, but take right there.
Take. And Mayan, is it a casual conversation, or is this Dr. Gates interrogating me?
What do you want? I mean, you're speaking right to camera, so it should just be kind of like your heartfelt why this project is happening.
Oh, so I'm talking to the homie.
Yeah, just, the research that you did. and
Yeah,
everything.
okay. Well, why did I do this? Shit.
I'm not talking to Justin, I'm talking about you. Probably talking about you.
You may want to talk to.
You know what, this is my first conversation with Dr. You. Or actually my third conversation with Dr. You.
Is that right?
Is that good for you, brother? You see-
Yeah, I know where I'm looking.
That's pretty spicy.
All right.
You want to do Yule, or you talking to Justin, or you talking to Dr. Yule? Who you talking to? Matter of fact, you just let me know who you want to talk to. I can keep it casual. I can keep it. You got it. You got it. Cause you know.
And you're speeding right here, basically. Sound speed. Yeah.
Dr. Yu,
Yes, sir.
the rehumanizing project.
Yep.
Why rehumanizing? Tell me more about that.
I was less than satisfied with the explanations I was given about why there's injustice in the world. I was trying to get to the root cause, and what was being provided to me at the time just wasn't sufficient. So I began to research, began to ask more questions, and those questions took me all the way back to the ancient Western world where you find Aristotle.
Please go back on that one. I'm sorry.
Go back where?
The sound.
Yeah, repeat yourself for the sirens.
Okay. Trying to find the origin of bias in social injustice, obviously, and how that impacts racism and misogyny and homophobia. And so that took me back to ancient Western world. We start looking at Aristotle. And Aristotle is like the father of hierarchy in the Western world. And so in that particular hierarchy, Aristotle way back when, he just made human beings at the top of the hierarchy, and the dude was dope because he was able to identify all different types of living beings, and he stratified them, leaving humans at the top and inanimate objects at the bottom. He was so dope, he was able to determine the difference between fish and dolphins. So he starts it without any intention of making a racial hierarchy or misogyny. He just is categorizing the world of BC, before Christ. And then as the world develops, things begin to change. So that was like one piece on the left as I was engaging in this critical thought process of trying to determine where it came from.
Okay. Let me step you back a little bit.
Okay.
Rehumanizing, what is humanizing? What does that mean?
Okay. Well, the eyes part is to do something. The suffix, the IZE, it's to make something. So when you humanize, you make something human, right? So when I started thinking about it, I looked at this idea from these pretty amazing black female scholars about this idea of intersectionality, and looking at it from and recognizing that people occupy multiple positions in U.S. context. So Justin is privileged because of my sex and orientation, but experiences less privilege because of my race in U.S. context. So that made me think that I am both dehumanized and the perpetrator of dehumanizing actions. I am dehumanized because of my blackness, but I have been engaged in dehumanizing behavior. So if I am engaged in dehumanizing behavior, I sacrifice my humanity.
So what is dehumanizing behavior? Like,
When you dehumanize, you are robbing somebody of their human characteristics and qualities. When we objectify women, that is a form of our dehumanization of women. When we make women body parts, when you call black folks monkeys, that is removing our humanity, our divine and innate humanity. And you are robbing us or these communities of those things. That's a dehumanizing That's a dehumanizing practice. But if I exist every day at the intersection of both privilege and less privilege, of humanizing or rehumanizing and dehumanizing, I said that this is problematic. I'll take a step back. If I live at the intersection of dehumanizing and humanizing, I said this is an issue. I said then if the majority of the world then has both been dehumanized and then has sacrificed their humanity by virtue of perpetuating dehumanizing acts on others, then a rehumanizing philosophy is necessary for everybody. And that's how I got here. It started actually, the Rehumanizing Project starts as rehumanizing ontology. And then I said, I can't spell that word easy. So then it became rehumanizing philosophy and then the Rehumanizing Project.
okay, so you're Dr. Gill.
That is correct.
And how would you explain why you're going to rehumanize to a person who doesn't have the education level that you have? Like, how would you explain rehumanizing? Because you explained it to me in
Right.
almost a gender, race perspective, right?
This is your opportunity to pursue your full humanity. Rehumanizing Project's main goal is to allow everybody to determine for themselves who their being is supposed to be. The essence of themselves is for them to determine. There shouldn't be a predetermined narrative telling little black boys that this is their get out, or women that they can't be engineers. That is their decision to make. Rehumanizing philosophy is dedicated to removing those hierarchies and challenging those hierarchies and those social norms so that the future babies, the future, inhabitants of this world, they have the fortune and opportunity to determine how they want to be in this world. It's not predetermined for them. They don't experience the shame. They don't experience the distrust. They don't have to suffer through social injustice based on things that they have no control over. Rehumanizing Project is dedicated to allowing people to be and celebrate their being, however they choose to do it, as long as it's not dehumanizing anybody else.
So it's not limited to women and black boys.
This is for humanity. This is for all of us. This is for the world round.
To what end? Like, why? Two-part question. Why now? And what's the objective? What's the benefit?
Why now? It's time to engage in this conversation differently. The years passed, and the focus has been on our difference, race, gender, whereas we haven't spent ample time speaking about or discussing or considering our common humanity. Why now? Because the strategies of the past just haven't worked. They haven't worked. We continue to see, we continue to to fight racial injustice. We've continued to fight against misogyny and simultaneously perpetuate it by engaging in the conversation the exact same way our forefathers did. Until we put our humanity at the center of the conversation, how are we not going to promote white supremacy or male supremacy or heteronormativity? Our humanity is first and the most important. So I believe that the answer to your why now is because it's time to try something different. And what's the aim? I want a better world for Justice Ewell and Tristan Ewell and the Bakers and the Gates family. David deserves a better world. And I didn't do all this Dr. Ewell studying to not leave an impact.
So what does that look like? So let's just say the Rehumanizing Project is successful, more successful than you could have ever imagined.
Uh-huh.
Quantitatively, what does that look like?
Where we would influence and change the narrative. That someone wouldn't be called beautiful because of social norms. Their beauty would be attached to their humanity. Where we would challenge the language and we would struggle daily to reshape a future that we could be proud of, that our kids could enjoy, that you can, that your mom would be proud that you tried to make. So I mean, it's just better. And I don't know if you would be able to quantify it, but you'll feel it. I promise you that much.
This feels like a great start.
You can only get better from here. If we continue to work on this in a social reality where the majority of us, it is my assumption that large numbers of us don't think about our humanity on a day-to-day basis. We love to think about our differences in a way that divides us, when our differences, I think, are the things that constitute humanity. They are constitutive components of what makes us human, that we are different, that we are not the same. And those different ways of being, when we move beyond tolerating them and accept and embrace them as just the different get-downs of the people of the world, then slowly but surely, generation by generation, we'll move the needle. Because you can only treat people in the manner that we've seen recently. You can only kneel on a man's neck for 4 minutes if you don't see him as a human being. The only way that women, the only reason that women can't jog the streets at night in fear that they will be stolen is because they have been objectified and dehumanized, and they're not seen as women. So we got to start somewhere. And this is different. This is different. This is challenging the status quo. This is engaging in the conversation in a very different way, and I think it's necessary. And I think that the younger people deserve this.
So,
we deserve this.
So this is tomorrow, and the Rehumanizing Project shifts the world in your perspective. And then, it's going to be aligned with this theory. Pragmatically speaking, how might a woman's world look differently? How might someone who considers themselves non-binary, how might their world be different? What does that look like?
I think once you remove the hierarchy and value a person's value, is considered intrinsic. and that they have value because of their humanness. I think that the world that you're discussing for us might even be unfathomable. We've never seen a world like this. So our challenge is to take a step closer to that world today so that for future generations, they can get ever closer to this dream, which could ultimately be their reality. But to have a world for me to share with anyone, undoubtedly, what this world would look like is virtually impossible for me. I've only lived in hierarchical situations. I've only lived in a world with white supremacy. So I try my best to envision and dream about a world where there's no misogyny, where there isn't homophobia. And I've never experienced a world like that. Neither have my children, my parents, nor my grandparents. But what we can do is we try to dream, we try to imagine, and start with rehumanizing. And then know that the conclusions we arrive at will continue to need to be refined as we move forward, as the possibility of truly being your authentic self becomes closer and closer and closer to the reality, and further and further and further from the dream. But this is the work. This is the work. This is jumping off the cliff and hoping you land somewhere. We don't have this reality right now. This is nothing that we know. And the Rehumanizing Project is taking a leap of faith and betting on people.
Last question.
Yes, sir.
That seems like a very tall order, considering today's climate, social climate, around the globe. You know, what you're speaking of seems like a very tall order.
Mm-hmm.
How committed are you to, like, seeing this through?
Completely committed, and for practical reasons. As much as this seems like a tall order and maybe near impossible, I remind myself that the current social context we live in now was created. It was created. Racism and race was created. The social issues that we experience right now, they are socially constructed. So we can construct something different. I am committed because I know we can change it, and I know firsthand because I engage with people that are committed to the change. I am engaged with people that see my humanity. I am engaged with people that love me and see me for who I am. That will forgive me, that show me empathy, that see my humanity. And I see theirs. And if we extend this out purposefully, then the possibilities are endless. The possibility for change is endless. The possibility for us to improve the lived experience of all people is endless.
Dr. Ewell, thank you very much.
You got it, man.
I got one question.
Do I gotta sit there?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was like, where you parked? I'm like,
No,
"Oh, okay, yeah." Yes, sir.
On site?
Yes, just right past, obviously this conversation is a jump off. Is there any steps past what we're doing now, starting the conversation? What are the steps to actually start a rehumanizing process? Does that make sense?
Yeah. This work that we're doing in regards to this docuseries, I think is wildly important for a variety of reasons, but also pretty different. It's Traditional research means that myself or a group of researchers would possibly ask a lot of questions and then do a lot of theorizing and tell people the end result. What we're doing right now in this important research is we're engaging the people that we want to change the world with in the conversation first and showing everybody what we're talking about. So the first thing I think that is essential in moving this project forward is for everybody watching, listening, whatever, to begin to think about their own humanity. And how can you achieve your fullest humanity while not impeding on the humanity of others? But the actual practices, what the tangible things are, you have to stay tuned. We're in process. That's why we're conducting the interviews. Anyone, shoot them. I mean, maybe not.
Actually, just give us your background real quick, just so we have it on camera.
How far back?
Just your background of your studies,
Okay.
schools you went to.
Right.
Yes, we got that.
So, born and raised in Monrovia. Most important part of my background is I am Joni Yule's son. I am James Yule's son. Did my doctoral degree at Azusa Pacific University because that's where my mom went. And I studied, my dissertation was in regards to it, it focused on the experiences of minoritized students pursuing a doctoral degree. What were their experiences like as they pursued their doctoral degree? And along the journey, I stumbled onto this idea of modes of being and how beings be human. And it just captured my interest and led me down this path to realizing that a rehumanizing philosophy was essential. So again, Justin Yule from Monrovia, Northern Arizona University, got my undergraduate degree, played football on a scholarship, came home, went to Point Loma Nazarene, got a master's degree, started teaching, became a counselor, got encouraged for a number of years to pursue a doctoral degree by a dear friend of mine, Dr. Isaiah Gates, and I didn't listen. I ran my own nonprofit for a number of years, helping 1,000 kids get into college. And then it was just time. So I pursued this doctoral degree, and here we are.
I just want to ask you one question off the list. When did
Sure.
Justin feel he was fully
Oh,
human?
Jesus.
You know how it comes up.
Yeah, when was I fully human? All right, I'm conflicted because I really do believe, that these are conversations that have to be had over and over and over again, right? It's like watching a movie. You watch a movie, you miss some parts, whatever the case may be, right? You watch it again, something else is noteworthy. So I'm going to need to have that conversation with myself several more times. But when I was first asked the question, I said I felt most humanized, and I thought people saw me most clearly when my mom died. When I came home, and there's all my closest friends just waiting for me in my pain and suffering. And they just sat there and sat there and sat there. And that made me start to think, do human beings connect more via pain and our suffering? And I just said, I didn't want that to be the reason why I connected with everyone, because life is so much more than the pain. So then I thought again, well, what would be my other opportunity or experiences? When I got my doctoral degree with a group of 15 other people, and they really let me be Justin in all my interesting habits and behaviors and modes of being, my unique get out. They embraced it, welcomed it, and encouraged it. And so right now, on this day, July 18, 2020, I'm somewhere in between there. Those are my humanizing experiences. My suffering and pain, and then being seen and appreciated. That makes me me. Right now. Yes, sir.
You talk about moments that people felt dehumanized, but when was a moment that you dehumanized somebody? And how did you realize it and bounce back from it? I think we all dehumanize tons of people in our life and just what was it instant to us?
All right. Jeez. Right on the spot. Okay, appreciate that question. Wow. I'm gonna go with in Lake Arrowhead, California, maybe 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. I was absolutely disrespectful to my younger sister, and I did not recognize her struggle. I did not recognize her value at the time, and was speaking reckless, pretty reckless, so reckless that my daddy started crying. And it took some time to repair. I have a close-knit family, worked with my older sister to try to fix things up. But ultimately, I had to go to her and have a conversation that hopefully, in that conversation, she not only heard my apology, but she was able to recognize that I saw her. And I recognized why I dehumanized her, like how. It was no longer like, I don't know why you're mad, but I'm sorry. I saw how I hurt her. And I had to sit in that, and she watched.